Okay, can you see that page?
Can I get apple?
Get Miss Q, can you see the page?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, we see the page.
Thank you.
like I said before, we need to keep on going over this until it becomes part of your soul. There are people who talk about people who don't understand formulas. Some talk about, well, where is the tangible part in terms of the use of the formula? And especially if you're new to the dynamics, you hear that kind of comments and it can discourage you. So what God has done is to make sure that it is clear to every GAGUTIan that what God has given to us here is the solution to every problem. That's why you see in the abstract there, first of all, the title is God Almighty's Unified Theorem GAGUT, G2j, J equal to 0, has revealed proven solution to the Riemann hypothesis. In many ways, when you present to 2 plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 0. That's a theorem. And a theorem, a real theorem, meaning a proven theorem, defies any challenges. Like 2 plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 0. Can you all understand that?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody can challenge it, in other words, because it's a God order. Therefore, God has ordered us to prove in every case. See, today alone, I have applied GAGUT in so many problems and issues that you did not necessarily understand all of them as being application of GAGUT. Anytime I say something that is correct, that is GAGUT, because it will have a GIJ. So, but additionally, if there are problems that society still believe are problems, and so cannot see a solution, or they don't know a solution exists yet, I approve of the ultimate blessing from God through GAGUT will have to be a demonstration of solution to such a problem, especially if it's a very difficult problem. That's what we're trying to do here. So for many of you who have seen this, there might be a tendency to think, oh, gee, I saw this the other day. No, 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 you cannot see enough of this. Because it's unique, but it's also a situation where Jim Crow uses their standard techniques of robbery to steal it. That's extremely real. When they call black people poor, if there's any black person that's poor, looks poor, it's because Jim Crow has stolen his wealth or her wealth. Y'all understand?
Yes.
So what Jim Crow does is he ignores your ownership of the thing in order to steal it. And then once he's stolen it, then he says you don't have anything. And the stealing is the center part of the whole military buildups. Because every war, even though it's fundamentally to prove who's superior, but application in reality turns out to be one of, okay, if you're superior, the word they use is might. Yeah, might is right. So that means you can order the other persons around. You could take their belongings. If you take their land, you're going to steal their resources. Whether that be minerals or whatever, they're going to steal them. In the process, they're ignoring your ownership of that resources. So they're very big on ignoring reality so they can steal it. Or your, ownership of a reality. They ignore your IQ, by taking your IQ attire and wearing it, ignoring your ownership of it. Then they will push their own intelligence attire on you. So that's what has been happening for the last 2,500 years. That's why you can never see enough of this in terms of the need for you to see them. You all understand?
Understood.
Yes. Additionally, because it takes an average mathematician maybe some 7 years or 8 years after high school to actually learn enough mathematics to be able to acquire enough background to be able to understand this. You understand? You understand that?
Yes.
Therefore, you need to make up for those 7, 8 years. Okay, by looking at this over and over and over, but God also presented it since it's God Almighty's glorified theorem. And since God has, defined every solution a solution to every problem is coming from one invariant. It means once you've solved one invariant, you've solved all invariants. So all you need really is to be able to understand why 2 + 1 is equal to 3. And you'll be able to understand, fundamentally why this is a solution to a problem, because it is an invariant, G2j. Do y'all understand? Do y'all understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so therefore, the abstract says God Almighty is going to unify a theorem, which infallibly prove that all theorems, that is, all theorems or theorem equation representing the solution to every problem. That's what all theorems means, because a solution, a correct solution to a problem, well-posed problem, must be a theorem. So in some certain cases, you just shorten the thing by saying all theorems, okay? And all equations originate out of one invariant, Gi, having orthogonal components, Gij, with divergence, Gij, comma j equal to 0, has revealed and proven the GAGUT invariant, a G2j, given by eta sub 0, natural log of 2, plus natural log of u of eta sub 0, e to power I multiplied by 2j plus 1 pi. That's the GAGUTical, and hence a God solution to Riemann hypothesis. Because GAGUT is God. Y'all understand that logic? Y'all understand that?
Yes.
Okay. You understand? You will remember that equation. You touch it. You let it touch your soul. You're going to remember it. It's going to be in your memory. It's going to be in your psyche. Okay? As a God solution to the Riemann hypothesis, where G2j of eta sub 0 is given by, is equal to 0. That's what makes it an invariant, meaning it comes from God. That's what 0 means. I've mentioned that a few times, how 0 is the common invariant, common thing for every truth. In the sense that 2 plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 0. 2 plus 1 is equal to 3 only because it comes from God in terms of 2 plus 1 minus 3 is 0. That means it comes from God. Now, if it wasn't a solution, you will never get 0. You will never get a 0. Now, this is what is supposed to be taught right from elementary school right now as part of GAGUTmatics and the replacement of the old-fashioned mathematics by GAGUTmatics. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you present the GAGUTical form, meaning instead of saying 2 plus 1 is equal to 3, you said 2 plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 0. And that way you bring God in it. That's number one. Number two, when you say 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, that's only correct because 2 plus 3 minus 5 is equal to 0, meaning again it comes from God. You understand?
Yes.
So what happens is those two situations appear like they're two different equations, but they are one equation. You just dilating them, you just translating them. You're just translating the equations. So translation doesn't change it. Therefore, it's the same equation. Change the coordinate systems, that doesn't change the geometry. And so, and that's what God ordered to be the nature of mathematics since 1990. This is what you need to understand. So, in other words, what were called different equations before have all become one equation. That helps a youngster develop a lot of confidence to study mathematics. Can you all see that?
Yes.
To convince the youngster that all he has to understand in mathematics is one equation is an infinite simplification of mathematics for that youngster. Can you all feel that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Because the idea of a youngster having to think, oh, gee, I have to know infinite number of different equations. That in itself is enough overwhelming thought for a young person to consider. And when you add to that, people teaching the subject not really being taught properly themselves, or not really understanding what was presented to them well enough to develop enough confidence, you can understand why a lot of people are turned off from mathematics. You understand?
Yes.
So God brings that solution. This is all part of heaven. The state of heaven, you can see that.
Yes.
Things that were considered to be difficult or impossible before, God is making them possible. So we can have not only appreciation of how much God loves us, but also using the time, infinite amount of time that you save through this elegant infallibility. Infallibility means it is perfect. It's elegant means it's simple. Do you understand?
Yes.
When you combine simplicity, ultimate simplicity, that's what we call radically. The Gij command equal to 0 is a radical unification of mathematics. A radical unification is elegance. But infallibility is that it is also perfect. Just like I showed you the dynamics of 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. That's a perfect theorem. Okay, that's a perfect theorem. And so, so what happens is, it is a perfect theorem. But then we just prove that 2 plus 1, 2 plus 3 plus equal 5 minus 5 is equal to 0. It's also the same as 2 plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 0. And you could add more. Every one correct equation is equal to 0. In the process, you reduce all of them in effect because they're all equal to each other. Therefore, there's only one equation. And so by solving one, by solving one of them, you've solved all of them. Only God could do better than that. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
To reduce infinity to one, you can't do, no human being can do better. There's nothing lower than one. The way God would do it better is that God would produce an answer instantaneously. There's no time lapse necessary for God. I still would have to take time to talk to you before you can see my answer. You know, so I take time. God doesn't take any time. You understand? Do you all understand? Now, a very godly part of it is also that just like the simple one, like a simple addition of numbers or integers, are all covered by GIJ, and they satisfy GIJ comma J equal to 0 because they're all invariant. God is an invariant, so its change is 0. God is an invariant. Is the ultimate invariant. Therefore, and because the situation is no different from crummy equations like the Riemann hypothesis solution. You understand? That is supposed to be so complicated. It defies solution, any solution. People run away from it. But with the blessing from God through GAGUT, that says, no, there is nothing fearful or, discouraging from the solution to Riemann hypothesis, because it will be a G2j. It will have a 0 defined by G2j of etas of 0. So even though this a lot of symbols here, it's still equivalent with 2 plus 1 equal 3, or 2 plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 0. Because they have, since 2 plus 1 minus 3, 2 plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 0, G2j is also equal to 0. So it is equal to 2 plus 1 minus 3. Can you all see that? Can you see that? Absolutely. That's the oneness of all equations and theorems. So you're going to use that confidence that yes, even though nobody knew before God got the solution to the Riemann hypothesis, one thing you're sure is for a solution, for an invariant to be a perfect solution to Riemann hypothesis, it must be 0, and hence equal to 2 plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 0. That's where when you're doing GAGUTmatics, that's what eliminates every anxiety and every concern and every fear of the search for the problem for you. You have enough confidence, because when you say, yes, G2j is the solution, is the perfect solution to Riemann hypothesis, then it is equal to 0. You just need to know what's the equivalent 2 plus 1 minus 3 for it. You understand? Do you all understand?
Yes.
This is so godly. I'm trying to give you some little more insight here.
Thank you.
See this as just a way of trying to find the equivalent of 2 plus 1, okay, minus 3. Okay, if you make this 2 plus 1, this is just minus 3 here. You understand? And so you must get 0. If Hardy and all these folks from Europe, Cambridge and Göttingen, if Riemann had GAGUT, that's where he would have started. And he would have been able to kind of, find something, if not exactly this, but something close to it. But although he was ill, but more seriously, the fact there wasn't a GAGUT during his time. You understand?
Yes.
This is a journey to God, a journey to the God's kingdom of heaven. I mean, our total commitment, well, that is part of why I'm committed to infinite love for the fellow creatures. Because how could you pay God for such a thing, such a blessing, such an incredible blessing? There's no one, unless you have a GAGUTical background, that will have a clue of where to begin thinking about how to find a solution. Only if you have a GAGUTical training. You'll understand.
Yes, sir.
That is the development. That's why that's Gupta said Oyibo. That's Gupta, you understand, he's a mathematical physicist, so his focus is on some of the fundamentals of eta sub n. Like when eta n is 0, that's all the subatomic particles. And even though they're looking for the so-called God particle, that doesn't exist. There's no finite God's particle. All of those are God particles. All of the n's are God's particles. Or rather, all of eta sub 0 are God's particles. But there are infinite number of them. And there's a basic thing, again, that is not understood, which is a geometrical dynamic, but also GAGUTical, which is something that is divisible, has no limit to how much you could break it down. And space is divisible, or space-time is divisible. Anybody get a sense of what I'm talking there? Sister Q?
Say it again, Professor.
Well, I said anything that is divisible can be shared. That's an African proverb, by the way. Anything that's divisible can be shared by infinite number of people. Sounds like a paradox. Oh man, well, that's why we're celebrating the GAGUTIan woman today. GAGUTIan women. Sister, we had a sister here who was so excited, and mysteriously she was attacked. That was many years ago. She was so excited about GAGUT, and she was, the next thing, her name was Sister Clara Jones. She was a dynamite sister. And I guess when Jim Crow finds out the black mama is so blessed, does all these miracles, and still has time to do regular academics and do better than Jim Crow, it's obviously frustrating. This sister was absolutely dynamite. Absolutely. Like Sister Q, Sister Sandra Bryan, And, you know, Winnie Mandela, right? Winnie, she's part of a big part of the celebration here. Sister Winnie Mandela, another legend, another GAGUTIan woman power. You understand? She's up there like, Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman and all those legends. Winnie is one of those. What a powerful sister. The other sisters like Brenda Farsi and a lot of others that you understand. There was a sister that I was being assaulted in Boston, a so-called liberal, city, attacking a sister there. That was in 1989, and that got me so upset. I was just on the verge of the announcement of GAGUT. There was a reason why God permitted that happening, So there are quite a few, and of course, Mary McCabe, they tried to, Sister Legend. You understand? You follow me? These are names that we haven't mentioned. These are powerful, extraordinarily powerful GAGUTIan sisters.
Yeah.
It's extremely powerful. Without people like this, we would never have existed. You all understand?
Yes.
Sister Brenda Farsi was taken by the soul of the whole Mandela piece. And she's like a younger version of Aretha, like another sister, another diva in the Congo, Mobilia Bell, but Sister Brenda Farsi was trying to think who best is equivalent with her here. The talents are in the realm of Sister Aretha, or Whitney Houston, and a number of other legends. But her feistiness, I'm trying to think who best represents. John, do you think, maybe those in your generation, that kind of, give you a resemblance to Brenda Farsi? Who? Yeah, well, but okay, but who do you think in terms of the feistiness, especially? Like I said, I don't think there's any. Yeah, she was very feisty. And you can see her so how she, what she called Black President, and she had a song there, and her soul was just moving. You understand? See, if you all are able to observe the sisters like I do, you understand? See, we have a lot in common in terms of the love. I have infinite love. They're next to me. You understand? Are y'all following me?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry if you think I'm bragging about my love, but hey, I have a reason to be proud of it. Believe me. I love because I see a difference between myself and certain other people, especially those who slam a size 0 young lady. You understand, her teens. You understand, slam them on the cement floor. Do you understand me?
Yes.
There's no way I could ever think of doing anything like that. I mean, it's just not something I would even consider under any circumstances. Do you understand?
Yes.
And I see a person in a police uniform go do that and is videotaped. My God, you understand? That's a lot of horror. So I see and I say, well, that's not me. I don't share. I have nothing in common with this kind of character. You understand?
Yeah.
So that's how, I don't take my situation for granted. I have to give praise to God. That's why you hear me bragging about it. And some of you, I hope you would excuse me. But if nothing, it kind of tend to focus on love. You understand me? Love.
Yeah.
You know, and what this young lady, side zero lady, did, you know, she just had a little argument with an older lady. And yes, she did something. She didn't hit her or anything like that. And next thing, the cop came zooming. Wow, I just went bang. I can't believe how she even survived. So, but in any case, Sister Brenda Fassi had that similar. I mean, the feistiness. In other words, I mean, a genius. She's a diva of the, like John said, I mean, they are divas in terms of the talent, the genius in music. Yes, Aretha certainly, although much older, maybe a granddaughter to Aretha. Yes, certainly in the Western, uh, Sister Whitney Houston's, and and of course Mariah Carey, and any number of those other diva legends over on this side of the Atlantic. But she was particularly conscious. And when she sung about the Black president, her whole soul was into it. And it gets my attention, because it transcends the regular talents. It becomes a real soul, and I don't even think that she needed it. It was coming out so spontaneously. It's a soul thing, and how powerful she has become as a result of just being aware of the existence of Nelson Mandela, and there was a brother in what is called Congo Brazza. His name was Franklin Bukaka. He is on the male side. He was another brother like that, and he was so soulful and so black and so proud. Don't you know Jim Crow actually, just for the fun of it, just blew his life away, just like that.
No.
Oh yeah, no, this is real. You understand? Then we'll talk about ones that you're more familiar with. Franklin Bukaka, that's his name. He's so soulful, and he sings about the immortals. Like Malcolm, and it defines them as immortal. Professor Patrice Lumumba, Reverend King, he lines them up and he sings about them, and he says, folks, and in the process go through the list of people that have been blown away for just being black. That's all they were, people who are conscious, who understand who they are. And in the process, they got blown away. That's how he got blown away. Franklin Bukaka. It's his name. I hope everyone remember, although, next week or the week after we'll do the male. But it's evenly divided. There are a lot who don't express the depth of their blackness in terms of showing outward consciousness. But in their talents, in their genius in the music, you can see it. And until Jim Crow can even go past and still trying to hurt people like that, even when they're not vocal about it. Y'all understand?
Yes.
I spend my time watching and observing those kinds of things. In the process, I get a lot of energies from our people. And that is some of the secrets. But that's it. I'm sharing you a piece of that. This is where the soul comes from. Soul in the sense of connectivity with the Creator. This is elegantly infallible. It's very neat. What you see here is very neat. And because it comes from 0 means it comes from God. And one of the brothers on the comment section in the last broadcast says, she said, when she looks at it, and when he looks at, this part of the G2j, it says he can see Euler's formula. That's a brother definitely that understands what we're talking about. Praise God. You understand?
Praise God.
Praise God. If you read through, I suggest everybody read all that comment. There were a lot of anger that were expressed.
Yeah, I saw it.
Absolutely. Brother Q, did you see that also?
No, I didn't see that.
Well, please take time to see it because it will reinforce yours as well, your energies as well. And I'm sure Sister Q would confirm that. There were a lot of anger. Yeah, there were a lot of anger expressed.
Yeah.
Because people are beginning to pick up on the the dynamics in their systems. And if Sister Q, you remember some of the words that were being used over there, right, to express such anger, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's a soul thing. It's a soul thing. And by the way, Sister Q, I understand one comment already confirmed what I said with regards to brother Uncle Tommy. Another guy on the comment section said yes. He confirmed what I said. He says Uncle Tommy sound. Go ahead. What did he say? Yeah, well, okay. If you are yeah, he says he confirmed what I said. He said Uncle Tommy sounded like Professor James Brown. That was independent, John just went in there and it may well have been, at the time I was saying it, he said, well, that's the dynamics of the truth. You understand? That says Uncle Tommy has a lot of soul in him.
Yes, he is.
So, but that's us. You understand? But this time now it must be expressed on without inhibitions. You have to express yourself now, and that lowers your blood pressure, and you're going to live forever.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. You got to release now. This is the medicine for anxiety, and that's why I'm getting you through. Now, in other words, you're going to be making statements about Riemann hypothesis with so much confidence, and Sister Q has already begun that process. And you said the other day, Sister Q said, well, yeah. I said, well, what do you think? And he says, yeah, what do you think? Is this right? He says, it's right. He said, the answer is right in there. It's right in there. Now, that is the kind of power that I want you all to build. So that your vibrations, your spirit emanates from you, and it keeps the evil forces very far away from you. Do you understand?
Yes.
You understand? In my younger days, when I would go to the schools around here, and the bad guys who are tormenting the black kids, and I come in there, and all I need is to ask for a meeting, and I come there and I sit down, and just there, the demeanor, the spirit, the godliness, and the love wrapped together beams out the bad guys. You understand me? They shake in their boots, and you understand me? And they spill coffee on themselves. Do you understand? They all understand.
Yes.
Now that is where you need to be. That's where you go. That's why I'm showing this here, because this helps you rebuild your confidence again. But what by confidence will mean your connectivity with the Creator. Do you understand? Now that's what gives me the power, and that's what God ordered to be passed on to you. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes. Do you understand? That's the essence of what we're doing here. So when you make a presentation, it is extremely godly. It is okay, John. I think I'm tuned off here. It's extremely godly. It's extremely powerful. Yeah, go back to where you were. So yeah, yes. So, see how it goes? Yeah, hope yeah, yeah, yeah. So so when you tell people G2j, this is the G2j solution to the Riemann hypothesis. They know that you are not kidding. You know you're not kidding. All right? You know this comes from God, because how do you know it comes from God? G2j operators of 0 is equal to 0. That's how you know it comes from God.
Yes.
Now, anything that comes from God is infallibly elegant. See, so therefore, this is elegance here. The ultimate elegance in mathematics. That's it right here. You understand?
Yes.
Huh? Go ahead, Brother Q.
I was just
Brother Q,
answering you.
one more time, please.
I was just answering you.
Jim Crow scrambling the last part of your presentation. Did you say, you can see that, something to that effect?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought you said. It is the ultimate elegance. Only God can do better. That all theorems, every possible theorem, that means all correct solutions to every problem, are given by this equation here. Only God can do better. And that's how you know it came from God. And it's out of that where this came out, and so on. And these are the definitions here. And the specific solution comes from eta sub 0. So, in other words, people like Professor Dasgupta, whose focus on the application of GAGUT with regards to physics, this won't be his primary focus. He will look more for fundamental particles, but which also comes out of eta sub 0. So with eta sub 0, you could be looking at all the quantum physics, all of them, fundamental particles, all of them.
Okay.
And you could also be looking at the entire subject of complex variable and a great part of all the partial differential equations in terms of geometry, both differential and algebraic. All will be, there are quite a few of them that And of course, GAGUT has unified everything else within that theta sub zero. But all in this tiny equation here. My God. That can only come from God.
Yes.
You understand? And but it's perfectly. That's the only basis we call it God. It's perfect. It's infallible. But it is also elegant. If you understand, if it took this whole solar system to write down an equation that describes everything, people would have actually accepted that as a solution. You understand? What you do is you just put dot, 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 and say, well, it takes 1 light years to finish writing it up. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh? People would have still accepted that because actually nobody expected it was possible. And here you have right here, that's right here. That's, you understand, it's geometry. So you want to go into other so-called disciplines. There's no such thing as other. There's only one discipline, which is geometry or GAGUTmatics. That's all there is. So you want to make J I to be P, then you're looking at what you call physics. Make it C, looking at chemistry. Make it B, looking at biology. It doesn't matter. You know, H for history. I mean, you understand, it doesn't matter. They're all the same because they're all function of etas of n. All. All right, so that's what we're talking about now. But then when you come into a specific application like the Riemann hypothesis, then lo and behold, this is it. Like I said, with all these definitions. And U is broken down into what is called a real and imaginary part. They're simply orthogonal. Orthogonal means they are 90 degrees, they are independent of each other. So, but this beautiful piece here is the entire focus. Okay, John, let me go to the next page. All right, so you can see that, and of course, the Riemann, the Zeta function is been given in such a neat way here. So, usually you have a crummy, summation and all kinds of things that you had there, where we usually start. That's why I avoided it today because that takes your, let me, okay. So now this is from that, from that G2j, this conclusion present, come out of that. Y'all understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Riemann zeta function called RZF, defined for the real part of S. Understand? Greater than 1 or X greater than 1 represents the convergent subset of zeta function given by zeta of S, where S is a complex variable that comes out of eta sub 0 that you saw a little while ago. As n, the number of terms of zeta function approaches infinity, it becomes convergent. And many people who go into Riemann hypothesis don't even talk about convergence, or they assume convergence. And many of them actually got into it through sheer computation. So, they just went with the flow, and the dynamics of prime number, energizes some others, and they don't really think about geometry, So anyway, With GAGUT, the G2j was able to help us see, the basis for this restriction in what is formally recognized as Riemann Zeta function, to talk about this interval, is because within that interval, the zeta function is convergent. It's convergent. And there's a reason for that, because without convergence, you can't get an actual solution, a real solution. So, number 2, zeros generated by zeta function contain all prime numbers, with the exception of 2, are a subset. That means eigenvalues. That's going to take you a little while for you to understand that. But like I said, if you're able to pick up 1% of what is presented, actually I would say 0.1%, you give praise to God.
Yes,
Amen.
sir.
Yes. Of points, but that doesn't mean you can't listen. You listen because you're hearing words, but you're hearing words of God also. You
Praise
understand?
God. Yes.
Yes, praise God. Every truth comes out of God. Every blessing comes out of God.
Yes.
But you're hearing your soul connecting with the Creator. And it's a different experience. It's a new day. It's a new age. The GAGUT age is what we're dealing with here. You're connected with God through GAGUT. You understand?
Yes. Praise God.
What's going on?
I don't know.
I don't think so, man.
All right, let's not let Jim Crow stop us here. We're going to continue, all right?
All right?
Okay.
Did you hear me, Miss Q? Did you ask Miss Q?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Let your soul prevail. You understand?
No.
Y'all understand? Yeah, your soul is going to prevail.
Yes.
Because you are connected with the Creator. That's the source of the power that we've been talking about.
Praise God.
Praise God. Praise God. So, zeros generated by zeta function, not the Riemann zeta function. People mix both of them. What is formally called Riemann zeta function is one with the kind of interval, x is greater than 1. But the regular zeta function, has the real part going from 0 to infinity, really. And so anyway, contain all prime numbers with the exception of 2, and are a subset, meaning eigenvalues of points that map the natural log of zeta of s minus 1 times 2 to the power s right onto the S complex space and can be represented by xj is equal to xj plus I times y sub j. Whereas consistent with logarithmic mapping due to infinite branches, for any given value of the xj, there are infinite values of yj that are located on a vertical straight line given by xj is equal to a constant. So that you understand best when you see the actual graph. And so this general solution, S is equal to xj plus iyj, is the origin of, correctly agrees with, and verifies the functional form of Riemann hypothesis zeros formula, since xj can be 1/2. So it gives where the guess from from Riemann, Professor Riemann originated from, because a parallel is drawn, to determine that. Riemann hypothesis zeros, however, are non-convergent, and so do not converge at all to any one set of values of yj as n approaches infinity. That's the dynamics. Proving here as a mathematical reality that zeta function does not converge to any one function with one set of zeros as n approaches infinity when x is equal to 1/2, has appeared to be, to the computation experts, like very slow convergence challenge. It doesn't converge at all. It's not a matter of slow convergence, there's no convergence. All computer Riemann hypothesis zeros thus far are thus proved to be non-convergent and hence finite field zeros. When x is equal to 1/2, then xj is less than 1, which says that Riemann hypothesis zeros given by sj is equal to 1/2 plus iyj are not Riemann zeta zeros due to the domain. Due to the domain. Okay, due to the domain definition of Riemann zeta function given as being x is greater than 1, as we saw earlier, or a real part of s is greater than 1. So Riemann zeta function is not defined within x is equal to 1, and hence has no values, including zeros, at x is equal to 1/2, as given by Riemann hypothesis. However, the Riemann hypothesis zeros are the zeta function zeros for finite fields. That is when you specify n. For infinite zeros, the zeta function of Riemann hypothesis zeros are given roughly by the following, which is x is equal to 1.252 with infinite y sub j's values, which is s sub j is equal to 1.252 plus iyj. And that's what was done. And what happens is that the similarity between this here as given by Riemann and this here as given by GAGUT is that this is to that as this is to that. That's parallels. And so there's quite similarity. That is, there's a geometric similarity in terms of the solution. So it's a matter of the location, and the fact of the y sub j here for Riemann guess, it is dependent on n. That's why it's called a finite field zeros. N is the number of terms you keep. So any set of this for the Riemann will be a function of the number of terms of the series that you keep. Whereas for here, there is no such a requirement because there's a convergence here and there's no convergence here. So therefore, the set that you have here becomes a unique set and an actual, what you can call an actual solution. Now that may be something you can only understand superficially, which is okay. Do you understand?
Yes.
But you at least you can see something, the resemblance between this and this, right? This
Yes,
is,
sir.
yes. So that's quite a bit. That's your 0.1% understanding. Okay, so that's fine. Yes. So in other words, that's one way of saying Professor Riemann wasn't stupid. He was not. He didn't make a stupid guess. And although it turns out to be wrong, one can see a motivation from where his suggestion came from. You know, and that's partially demonstrated by the commonality. In other words, nobody could have guessed that it will be at a constant x here. He was able to guess it's a constant x, although the value is different from this value, but they're all still constant x. Now, though over here you could pick up another value, you know, when you understand, and still get, but you know, so the differences are clear, you know, but the commonality in terms of parallels are also, you know, easy to see. Now, let's move on now to the big to the graph. Y'all understand? So
Yes, sir.
elegant G2j gives us the ability to see all these geometries falling out.
Got it.
Many of them, yeah. Many of these things have already been verified by, yeah. All right, this is the figure here. That's what we're talking about, that when we're talking about mapping, logarithmic mapping. And I give you a simplified sense of what mapping is. One of the best examples is when you take a picture, that's a mapping. Have many of you thought, did you all think of taking a picture as mapping before?
Nope, not since GAGUT.
That's right. What happens is when you draw a map of a place, you know, what is called a map simply means you're taking the geometry, boundaries, or, you know, roads and so on and so forth, and putting it on a paper, you know, in order for you to see it on a piece of paper. Okay, so that's what is called mapping. Now, ordinarily, you do a hand sketch that will show that kind of map.
Beautiful.
Yes, but, and a fine art could do something like that also, fine artist. But with a camera, you could do the same thing, which will be more accurate than your hand sketching it. You understand?
Yes.
The camera will be more accurate, you know, better than your hand sketching, because hand sketching, you can't guarantee perfect proportionality. A good camera is able to approach perfect proportionality in terms of the location of things in that map. You understand?
Yes.
Now, so the camera does mapping. That's what the camera does. You can draw it by hand. I said, draw a map of New York City. You can draw it. Now, usually, you know, if you properly locate it, the camera will capture quite a bit of details, although it's still two-dimensional for the most part, but to capture quite a bit of details. Now, when you're doing it by hand, you know, it's not possible. I mean, you understand me? You can do but so much. So the camera is a lot more accurate. You know, so, but it is called mapping, whether you do it by hand, something they call freehand, or you do it by camera. It's a mapping of realities, you know, from one space to another, from the physical space to a transformed space. That's what you're really doing. Do y'all understand that?
Yes.
Yes.
New York City physically, you know, looks, I mean, it's here in New York, in a place called New York City, but when you map it or when you sketch it, it's on your paper. The paper where you sketching it is called a transformed space. Do you understand?
Got it.
That's
Got
a,
it.
that's a transformed space. In other words, you're putting an image or a geometry of New York State, New York City, onto a paper. So the paper becomes a transformed space. And the way our mind, our brains understand things is like that. It takes, you know, the minds too. The mind, in other words, you can think, if you've been to New York before, you can think about New York. Many of them you're not going to remember. And you could have the memory of what you saw then. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
So the eye is like a camera in that sense. Okay? Because you not only saw it, but if you remember from memory, there are a few things that you still that are still there in your brain. Is a transformed space. Your brain. Do you understand?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, your brain is a transformed space. Yes. So when they say Uloyibo, Geoyibo, help in understanding how the brain works, well, you're hearing part of it, right?
Got it.
Well, because God stored in my finite brains the totality of the fundamental building blocks for constructing every reality. That's going to take you a long while before you can understand that perfectly. You can get a sense of what we're talking about. One, by hearing me talk forever. You understand? And the miracle of even keeping you hanging in there.
Yes, sir.
Along with me, that's, you know, God's power is actually is enormous. It's incredible. You know, Jim Crow in their wildest dreams would never have thought that you would be sitting down being able to listen to Riemann. I mean, just a lecture on Riemann, so it's supposed to bore you to hell, you'll run away. But now you're looking at a solution to Riemann hypothesis. That's how God gets even with evil forces. You understand?
Praise God.
Yes,
Praise
sir.
God. Praise God. Praise God. That's what you're doing. So you come out and a friend visits you tomorrow or whatever and say, what are you doing, you know, around 11 o'clock, you know, 10 or so, what were you doing? I say, well, I was listening to a presentation on Riemann hypothesis. I said, Riemann, what? You understand?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
But that's what you're doing. But it will take you a while to be able to convince them, right?
Yes. It
But
does.
that's precisely that's what you're doing. All right?
Praise
But
God.
that's how God gets even with evil forces. Jim Crow wants to steal the dynamics by which they steal. It amazes you. The whole idea of refusing to recognize your ownership of your blessing, for them to, I mean, I've seen it happen so many times. It is so shocking to me, and I still can't get used to it. Someone that's to be so blatant, like what? Are you there?
He's not on yet at the moment, but we'll get him.
Mhm. All right. So, like what Sai was indicating, and they find it out with clock, and if it can happen with clock, it probably happened to. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, how lives are blown away by ignorance. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. With an incredible level of level of fraud in terms of telling lies. To say somebody has a gun in their hand, for you to use that as an excuse to kill the person, when in fact they don't have a gun in their hand. Y'all understand me?
Yes, sir, I do.
Yes.
Well, but that is how I'm able to count my blessings and praise God for blessing me with a counter spirituality, spiritual that the exact opposite of that.
Yes.
You understand? And I don't take mine for granted. Just like when I was starting out as as a young person in mathematics, and people pose a problem, and when I give my solution, and I'm very adamant about making sure it is proven. So that followed me right through, through my, later years. And then I made a policy that, if I have looked at the problems.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yes?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Hello?
listening. Yeah, I just did Uncle Tommy.
Uncle Tommy, how you doing? Well,
Yeah. Huh?
nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, great.
I'm here.
Yeah, they're scrambling. Yeah, Jim Crow is kind of getting a little impatient here.
Yeah, well,
Well, this is the time where everybody must celebrate because
Yeah.
they've reached out. Göttingen has reached out. Yale has reached out. The school has reached out.
Uh-huh.
So you need to receive the accolades. They receive them and tell them you'll be a nice master. You understand?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a nice teacher and a nice master.
Yeah.
It's not part of your repertoire, not part of your system, to do anything other than,
Yeah.
just harmony and love, true love, and that's what makes the world go round. I've proven that to you all before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. The love makes the world go round.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because if it is once, the world going around in terms of the planet going around the sun,
Uh-huh.
it's based on love, because if we stuck with one point, we only be having one season. And that one season could be just summer or winter. You understand?
Yeah.
Well, that God understand that's not, you can't live a whole life where it is all cold all through your life. You understand?
Uh-huh.
Nor can you live in a life where it is all hot all the time. You understand? So that's how, because it goes around, you have a variation in there. In all that, and makes your life a little more comfortable and gives you some variation. So that explains why the going around is an evidence of love being expressed by God. Can you all see some sense in that?
Yeah, I don't see you right now. I'm just listening to what you're saying. Teach me. Are you talking to other people? I'm sorry, you're not only talking to me. I apologize. I be thinking you're talking to me. I forgot there's a million of us on this thing. Okay. I
Yeah,
apologize.
no, I'm glad they fix your connection, you know, because now it's nice to have you in there. But Sai, how you doing?
Hello?
Yes, Professor. I'm glad to be here. Hearing
Yep.
this, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. So you can see how love is connected with the moving around of the planet, right?
Yeah, you're so smart. I never thought of it like that. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's expression of love. So, you know, yeah, I'm here to give you all love. You understand? Real love, the true love. Because I have a lot of it. And like I said, yeah, I was told a Jewish, person around me, and I looked at him, and he had a funny kind of dynamics. And I said, you know, you kind of look, you know, kind of uncomfortable and everything else, but don't you know that I love you more than you love yourself? And he said, what? You know, and, and then he was in such a shock to hear that. And then he came closer to me and he said, you know, what do you mean by that? And I repeated it again, and he said, well, he said to me, he said, you know, that sounds wonderful. He says, is that a religion?
Wow.
Is that some kind of religion? And I said, no, don't get any ideas. I says, the kind of love I give is like a mother's kind of love. Well, I know that even the mother's kind of love, or father's kind of love for that matter. It could be at least two parts. There could be a candy part, and then there's the tough love part. Okay. So I said the kind I'm talking about is a tough love. You know, I give you all that, but if you turn out to be a bad boy, then that gives me an opportunity to spank you like a mother will spank a baby. Now at that turned him off right away. He said, "Oh, really?"
Wow.
The love didn't turn out to be that funny anymore. I said, "Well, look, if you're a bad boy around here, you know, you're gonna get some little some story, you know, and so on." So anyway, so he quickly changed his tone, and because he said, "Gee, if that's a religion, he wants to be a member of that religion, or he like people with that kind of religion, so he could be getting all the love and all that." I said, no, that's a responsibility. Yeah. So anyway, so what we're doing here, the picture that is on the screen, Brother Uncle Tommy, can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see the picture there, the graph? Can you see it on your screen?
No, I'm listening to you, man. I don't see nothing besides a green picture here with a white symbol ahead and some OER. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just listening to you. I ain't got to see that. You keep talking. I figure it out. I ain't got to see it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look. But all I'm expressing is the greatest love from the Creator
I'm out here in the woods.
from all creatures, particularly.
Okay. I'm out here in the woods.
And particularly Black people.
Okay.
That's where what you see here is coming from. Professor Stephen Hawking just transformed on, and I hope he rests in peace.
Yeah.
He was so perplexed about looking for unified field theory. Says there's no way God is going to allow a creature, any creature, including humans, access to God's mind, to see what was in God's mind while God was creating the universe. He didn't think that was possible, so he gave up at that juncture. But like I've said many times, while he was doing that, 1 year earlier, God has already revealed this stuff. So out of this, every hidden mystery is the core, and this is one of the most complicated mysteries. The picture that you are seeing here is one of the most complicated mysteries. You understand? And so God brings the revelation of that most complicated mystery in what we call the elegantly infallible revelation. And part of that elegantly infallible revelation is this picture here, the mapping between the U space, which is this one here, and the eta sub 0 space, or the S space. That's what Riemann have put a solution, you know, how God revealed it. In the process, the guess by Riemann that says you have a vertical line is seen immediately. You understand? The vertical line is what you see here, the line that goes up and down. That's what is called a vertical straight line. You all understand?
Yes.
Okay. Riemann guess says the zeros of Riemann, the zeta function, lie on a straight line, a vertical straight line. This formula here, the G2j actually verifies that, because that's what the logarithmic mapping, you know, produces. It is so perfect, it's so elegantly infallible. No, there's no evil force that can touch it. God bless you. Y'all understand?
Yes, sir.
So now that is part of that huge love. It's extremely complicated. And yet, because it's a picture of a clock, in the U space, it is a clock. While in the S or eta sub 0 space, it's a vertical straight line. A clock. You understand? How would anybody guess that a Riemann hypothesis is something that could be associated with a clock? You understand? But that's how God showed it. And so, something that is practically impossible for most people, God is able to reveal it to whoever God chooses to reveal it.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Yes.
And the next level of the miracle is that I can explain it and you all can get a sense of what I'm talking about. Because when I say the clock, you can see the resemblance of this thing as being like a clock system, right? Can you all see that? Yeah, you have, you know, the shorter hand and the longer hand. Do you understand that? That is what is rotating. It's rotating. And when it's not a solution, you have an angle between this hand and this hand. That's what the clock looks like, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. So therefore, you can see a resemblance of this, the one on the right and left, as being looking like a clock. All right? But in the Zeta sub 0 space, you have that clock being transformed into a vertical straight line. And in the process, shock the hell out of the whole world of mathematics. You understand? It blows people away. There have been all kinds of dynamics before the G2j, 1990, where people were saying all kinds of things. People cry, well, where is the Riemann hypothesis? Where is the zeta function zeros? There was even, I think, some tune or something to that effect that was suggested. John?
Yeah.
I'm going to need you here for a second. That was suggested in terms of, hey, nobody seems to be finding a real zeros for zeta function. Since it's been shown the solution for half the Riemann guess is only valid for finite field. So the idea is, well, if that is the case, then does zeta function have zeros? Of course it does have zeros. You just need to go far enough to this side here. That's what God did. You know, so not over here where it's 1/2, but further, you know, at 1.252. That's where, you know, that's the dynamics. Out over here. Somewhere here. But it's still a vertical line, vertical straight line, like Riemann has predicted it. And so in the process, one gets a geometric solution loud and clear. See if we talk a little bit. Okay. Okay. So can you see that? Can you see a little below there? Can you see what's going on over there?
Yes.
Okay, that's you know, showing some details.
Hey,
Like
Professor.
Yes.
You know how you explained to us like everything in the universe, including all the galaxies, are basically finite, and then God himself is basically infinite. Then when you look at the Riemann hypothesis, you have finite and infinite too. So are you trying? Is that a comparison that you try? Is that a comparison we can look at that when they had it when they had the zeta function at 1/2, they had a finite, very, very small like zeros, and then when it's at 1.252, you can get infinite. Like it's like how God is, like infinite.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Although terms like absolute infinity or things like that are used to qualify the one that represents the entire universe or God. But yes, Riemann hypothesis goes on forever. I'm sorry, the zeta function goes on forever because it goes from 0 to infinity. So the challenge here is when you have that kind of function, and like many similar dynamics in mathematics, the only way you can talk about activities at infinity is when there's convergence. That's the fundamental problem people had trying to tackle this problem. You know, and people who could use any number of ways to try to prove a vertical line here. But usually those kind of approaches, you know, is extremely cumbersome.
Now, Professor, when you say convergence, I think of like intersection, like a roll, like a cross, like an intersection, like a cross. Is that convergence? Like when two lines meet or two opposite lines meet?
No, well, convergence means that when we talk about convergence, we're talking about the number of terms. When you have an infinite series, the thing goes on forever. The terms, you're going to add the terms, you know, and infinite simply says the n has no limit. N has no limit at all. So n can go on forever. You pick any number. You want a 20 zillion for n, you take that in. You want to take 3 light years for n, yes. So in that way, there's some resemblance with the universe, the galaxies. You understand? But that's the concept of infinity. Now, what happens is, so they said, tell us what's happening. What are the zeros at infinity? How the hell would you know? if there's no end to an infinity, the infinity is not defined as one particular number of terms. It just arbitrarily says something large. There is no specific. That's so too open-ended for anyone to actually, come up with any way to tackle the problem. And that is the particular case in this case. So what happens then is an infinite series in general. But usually, a lot of infinite series, simple ones, especially with the real variables, tend to be convergent. So convergent means that when n gets very large, you're going to be approaching a value or a function or something. There will be something unique, something that is one that you can focus on, rather than having things that are going haywire, some kind of chaos. Do you understand me? You can, you understand, and especially when you add another n, the whole character changes altogether. But what is being asked automatically, in order to make any sense out of that whole question, automatically implies there has to be a convergence. But but when you're given the nature of the series in a complex space, that's an incredible problem in itself. It's an incredible. Very few people are able to develop any level of confidence in terms of what goes on in a complex space, because it's multidimensional. It's 2 dimensions, and you could get yourself into all kinds of dynamics. So visualizing the geometry becomes extremely difficult. Okay? So, but in addition to that, you have a number, the field in terms of the numbers of terms. And the larger the number of terms, the more complicated the problem can get. So, and then what you've been asked to do is, what happens when the number gets very large? But in saying so, there's no number indicated. The only way you could make sense out of such a problem is if you have convergence. The convergence then allows you to see one unique situation, or one situation that approaches, something, as n gets very large. That's what brings up the dynamics of, convergence. Now, when we're talking about the universe, you understand me? The universe is, depending on what aspect of it you're looking at, certainly the distance itself, that's very large, but it's also another dynamics of it, which is that you are free to choose your reference point. Okay? So, for example, if you want to concentrate on infinity, or any long but still finite, any long distance place, you could go close to that so as to make the distances or the space-time reasonably distant, small enough for you to work with them. But in case of infinity, where there's no limit, you can't do that. So, so the universe is infinite. Now, infinite can also be looked at within, which is like in this case. Okay? Sai, are you there?
Yes,
Sai?
I am. Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. You look at this here, this is circular. It doesn't have to be circular. It could be any closed curve or any curve that kind of goes round and round. Sometimes it's not closed, okay, because you don't need to, you can't begin from here, and end only in limits can you do that. Otherwise, to be a spiral. You understand? God bless you. It will be a spiral. Okay, so you start from, very close here and then go like this and then come like that. Do you understand? That's a spiral. The diameter keeps on enlarging. Do you understand? Y'all understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, that is one, but let's assume, and of course that can go on forever, with the diameter ever increasing monotonically. Okay? So that's going to cause a divergence. All right? Now, but even when you take a situation where you return back to the same point where you started, you still can go around that if it continues forever. Do you understand? That's another kind of infinity. You understand?
Yes. That's convergence too?
No, that do not necessarily convergent. You understand? In fact, that's where the Y is generated. The YJs. John, I think I busted up again. The YJs come out of that infinite rotation. On any circle, you can keep on going. You can be tired and you could stop, but otherwise you can get going as many times as you want. You understand? Which is the nature of space-time. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah. You understand? You can live it like that for time. A little bit. Yeah. As much as I like the whole thing. The top. Well, shrink it a little bit because I like the bottom also. All the bottom. Okay, that's that. That's yes. Okay, good. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna stop. So you can see, even on a closed circle, you can keep on going like this. Doom, dam, doom, 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 doom. You can go on forever until you're tired. You understand? You understand? Yes. Even see, like in my exercise, I pace. I told you that already, right?
Yes, that was a secret.
I understand. But so in that case, I only need a small space to pace. You understand?
You can go in one circle pace back and forth infinitely.
Exactly. Until you start sweating. So whereas there's a dynamics of technology, you have to go and find a safe place to do your jogging or go to the park or something like that. You could do that literally in one spot. You understand? You understand that?
Yes.
Yeah, well, so so then that's the dynamic. So the nature
that's
of space,
just like pi, because pi is no matter how big the circumference or the diameter, is the same number. Like you said that one little space, or you can have a huge space, but it's still just a space.
Exactly. So that's the beauty of God around us in terms of God's love for us. You understand? There are people who, and I remember my brother's case, my younger brother, that I'm still very close to, but who was assassinated for being a genius in medical science. He was really a mathematician first and foremost, but he took that on to into medical field, and he became an incredible surgeon. And but I remember when he got this mysterious accident where he had an internal bleeding, and he had to do a surgery, let's see, 2 or 3 days before he transformed on himself. And the story was something like the patient whom he had just done a major surgery on was still recouping when they told him the doctor that did the surgery had just transformed on, and he couldn't believe it. But in any case, at the time when, after that surgery, he was restricted. He did the surgery with an IV on his hand. He did the surgery. Now, that's the kind of miracle we're talking about. You ever heard that kind of story before?
No, not on no surgery like that. That would be
a medical doctor conducting surgery with an IV in his system for a major problem, personal problem. Because the patient said when, because he had an episode with his situation in between the time he was scheduled for the surgery and the surgery itself. And so he delegated the surgery to a colleague to carry out because at that time he had gone through an episode that has actually reduced him to, he has become very weak. I think he had vomited and vomited lots of blood or something like that. And he really, but the patient said he would rather die than have anybody else do the surgery. And when my brother was told that, he simply said, okay, no, we're not going to allow him die. He's going to do the surgery. And that's when, they took him with his IV to the OR, and he conducted the surgery, and it was successful. So
that's a hero.
These are miracles, around me. I'm telling you, that's my brother, Dr. Musa. And so, returned from that surgery and everything, and the patient woke up and everything. The third day, my brother was assassinated. Let's say about 500 miles away from where he did the surgery. That's the irony of Jim Crow dynamics, because the guy that assassinated him has associated with some Jim Crow system, So now that's the dynamics we're talking about, but it's all about love from God and blessing from God. So, but yes, so therefore,
that's your grandmother was a pediatrician, your brother was a doctor, and then you as well. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. My older brother was another. He was into music, and but he was also another legend. There were people around, and these were folks that were really gala. They had the gala spirit in terms of, you understand, Jim Crow. You can take a walk. You understand? And so, like Franklin Bukaka and a couple of others, legends, Fred Hampton and Steve Biko and Professor Walter Rodney, you understand, and of course, all the other sisters. Quite a few sisters have been, having done all kinds of horrors too, which is why the celebration today, is going to be going forever. Those legends that we call our mothers must be celebrated as the God order. And that's where we begin our celebration, because then we could celebrate every other thing and every other segment of our society. And in the end, we are celebrating the Creator that has blessed us with so much love in our soul. So you get a piece of that here. For God to reveal a very complicated, so therefore they're going around, where this, the two hands here are measuring that motion that goes round, is, God bless you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's what produced the infinite number of the wise in both cases. You understand? It is so elegant. Okay, well, all right, John it looks like I have to. They shoot me. So now these are the actual solutions. You can see there, as a Riemann hypothesis guesses, what is called solution is where this is what is called the real and imaginary parts. And the real and imaginary parts, you understand? Yeah. And then so well, okay, we don't have too much time anyway, so let me move on there. Yeah. So yeah, so yeah, but I'm not gonna take too long. So therefore you have, one part is the real part and the other yeah, okay, so this is the real part, the top one, and then let's see, this is the imaginary part, the bottom one. So when both of them come to 0 is the solution. But that's the solution for finite field. Finite field means you must, prescribe an n. In this case, n is 10. And John has gone through all kinds of dynamics experience with this here, because when you make n 20, just twice that, and this figure is totally different, which is what we're talking about here, okay? And I've heard so many people not really say much about it. You understand? People automatically assume there's convergence, as if, once it just, believe me, it blows your mind in terms of what God has done here. You understand? It blows your mind. This
is amazing. If this was in somebody else's hand, this would be trumpeted on the front page news, on every broadcast station.
Yeah, but you can do that. That's why they're trying to get your spirit down, but your spirit's not going to go down. And believe me, we will have a good communication. You just need to be godly focused and vigilant.
Professor, you solved the problem that was 150 years old that they have $1 million up for. You solved it, and it's like nobody says nothing. That's amazing.
That is what I'm glad that you were here. That's exactly what happened to you when they tried to attack you for being a genius. Like you clearly saw, they were ignoring the truth in order to present a fraud right before your eyes. And what you were saying to yourself was, this what was said about clock, right? This what was said about Alton Sterling. And there was no way to convince the public, in fact, of actually being a 9mm gun with Alton Sterling. The same way they're trying to fake a gun in your hand is what was done with Alton Sterling. And since they murdered him, he couldn't give us an evidence whether he had a gun in his hand or not. Can you see that?
I see.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, that's what was but they got the vibrations of GAGUT within you, and so they got some very serious message. You understand? So, but that's exactly what is doing here. What's going on here? And that's what I was expressing to people. How you understand? That is incredible. It's you want to call it guts? It's not guts. It's incredible stupidity. Because what you can't challenge, you just ignore in order for you to allow a fraud to prevail. That's a standard with Jim Crow. You understand?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yes, absolutely. We see this every day. You understand? And the only way such a thing can work is if it's in a kangaroo court. And they bank on that kangaroo court by being so bold. So in reality, therefore, there's no such a thing as a court. You understand? It's all together.
Not of justice.
Well, but the only justice comes through GAGUT. So that's, as far as you're concerned, you must allow them to understand you're a GAGUTIan. You are a GAGUTIan. Means your only business is about justice and godliness. And that is the real power. That's what makes God the ultimate power. You understand? Move to the next thing.
Yes, sir.
So therefore, you're not powerless that way. Yeah, this is the, something they never thought was possible. That when you are, X118, more than 1, that you could have a 0, and here are zeros. This is close to 0. On your way to infinity. Now, notice that whereas the other one n was 10, this one n is 440. You understand?
Yeah.
And that's the number of terms. We have to keep, and John has to program 440 terms in the equation.
Well, it's the 2. There's U1 and U2.
And U1 and
then
U2.
the summation of the both.
And you sum all of that. But what you get is what, here is a pretty close to 0. But given that and this is a sense of the large number, okay, that we're talking about, infinity, this is a sense. In other words, this is large compared to the 10 we talked about before. You understand?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
and it only gets larger.
Yeah, this is 44 times bigger. So then what you see is something's approaching 0 here. And GAGUT further proves that the higher the n, the lower part here will get. So that means you have a projection where, you understand, the bigger this gets, the closer this is going to be to 0. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you all understand that?
But it'll never touch 0 though, right?
Yeah.
No, it will touch 0 at infinity. You understand?
Yeah.
Now that is the godliness. And unfortunately, we'll have to close and then resume in a week and a half. You understand? But power to the Creator, power to our mothers, our GAGUTIan women, mothers, daughters, sisters, and wives. You understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that is, the essence. And they gave birth to all these blessings that God is giving to us. That's why they must be celebrated. You all understand? Thank you.
Oh yeah.
And that's okay. And
So let's leave you on this note, the GAGUTIA.
Thank you. You're going to do that. And the celebration of GAGUTIan women. You understand?
Can you all see it?
Sister Q, are you there?
Yes, sir.
We tell you, God bless you.
Can you see it
You
though?
understand?
The God.
And all the other sisters.
Can you see GAGUTIA?
Yes, we see it.
Praise God. You understand? Yes. That's where we came from, and it's the holy continent. You understand? The holiest and the most intelligent continent. Y'all understand?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So that's why we give praise to God today. Okay?
Okay, praise God.
Praise God. So you all have a good night, and we're going to get more powerful. You understand? And we're going to plan to go into the city halls, to talk to the police. You understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. And the bad image has to be thrown out, and the real image, which is GAGUTIANs, has to be replacing it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Be godly, focus, and vigilant, and understanding God is the greatest and in charge. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All the time.
Praise God.
Amen.
Praise God.
Praise God.